At the height of its power, HTC was responsible for 1 out of 4 smartphones sold in the United States, and not by mistake. But like so many other of the giants of old, the company's fortunes took a turn for the worse. Rock bottom was last year in August, when the once high-flying brand stock was trading below cash reserves, meaning it was essentially worthless in the eyes of investors. With the 10, HTC must prove to the world that its devices are worth buying. So it needs to be rock solid both on the inside and outside, while also doing a splendid job of getting us through a full day of live acrobatics. This is Chris with PhoneArena. Let's see how well it does. Available in silver and dark, the HTC 10 strikes us as a rather masculine device, and while in terms of looks it's not the prettiest phone out there, it's a glaring example of macho design, and that, to be fair, is not a bad thing at all. In the hand, it's substantial and pleasantly heavy in a way that few phones are. So from the chamfered edges on the back to the solid aluminum body, the 10 is a smartphone with style. Those aforementioned chamfers aid handling ergonomics and help you forget that the 10 is thicker than its rivals. And while the phone is rather chunky, it feels like its thickness is a statement just as much as an engineering necessity. Also helpful is the ridged power button, which is centered on the right side, while the volume rocker is a bit higher for a perfect secure grip. Turning our attention to the front, it's where HTC's design team lets us down the most. Adopting many of the characteristics of the HTC One A9, the 10 isn't exactly striking when looked head-on. Probably the biggest offender here are the weird proportions of the top and bottom bezels, along with the home button, which sits strangely off-center. After sticking to 5-inch displays for 3 consecutive generations, HTC has now moved up to a 5.2-inch Super LCD 5 screen with Quad HD resolution. That works out to a density of 565 pixels per inch, or more than sufficient to ensure everything you end up looking at will be extremely sharp. As for screen quality, it's good overall but not perfect. Finally, it should be noted that the HTC 10 software allows you to tweak display metrics, and there are 2 distinct screen modes, Vivid and sRGB. The former is your overly saturated, AMOLED-like mode, though both modes offer the option to manually adjust color balance. Based on Android Marshmallow, the HTC 10 software is really the only manufacturer interface where the word tolerate doesn't figure. We kind of like it actually, and if you're a fan of the Nexus line, this is probably the only custom UI you'll like as well. It's down to the point and beautifully utilitarian, with just essential apps preloaded and no duplicates. That said, there are sometimes things and perks if you're so inclined. A great example here is the Themes app, which allows you to completely redecorate the look and feel of your home screen. Everything from app icons to wallpapers, fonts, and even color schemes can be edited to your taste, though we're yet to feel inclined to mess up with the defaults. Another standout but actually useful feature is the Blink Feed home screen, which integrates news, social media feeds, and contextual recommendations. The only other feature worth mentioning is HTC's Boost Plus app. As the name suggests, it's supposed to keep the HTC 10 performing fluidly by managing your apps in the background and scheduling maintenances to clear out junk files. Boost Plus also lets you lock other apps so they only open through a pattern or fingerprint. Speaking of the fingerprint, the pill-shaped capacitive home button on the chin of the HTC doubles up as one, which is a first for the company's flagship line. It's a touch-type sensor and a lot alike to the one Samsung is using with its flagship devices in shape, size, and location. In any case, that thing is very fast and absolutely spot on with accuracy. Sure, we haven't staged any intricate tests, but our takeaway is that this is possibly the most reliable scanner we've ever worked with. Despite ranking slightly lower than its peers on synthetic benchmarks, it would be crazy to even mention sluggishness in the context of the HTC 10. Quite frankly, this is by far the smoothest running non-Nexus Android device to grace our offices. Every action is executed promptly, app open times are minimal, and it just feels like HTC has really done its part of the job. On the downside, when under continued pressure, the HTC 10 does tend to get warm. As for storage, in the United States, the HTC 10 is limited to 32GB of internal memory. Don't worry though, for the 10 comes with a micro SD card slot, which is adoptable thanks to Android Marshmallow, and unlike the Galaxy S7 or LG G5. In simple terms, Android will let you host apps on the card no problem, so that's a relief. And if that's not enough to soften the blow, you're also getting 100GB of free Google Drive storage for 2 years. For years now, by far the biggest weakness of HTC devices has been the camera. Refusing to give up its 4-megapixel ultra-pixel camera for 2 generations, the company finally moved to a higher resolution Toshiba unit with last year's One A9. Unfortunately, it wasn't good enough. Not about to mess up yet again, HTC is going with a promising 12-megapixel sensor with large pixels and wide lens. Combined with optical stabilization, these parameters suggest great light sensitivity for when you're shooting in the dark. Up front, we're looking at an equally compelling 5-megapixel selfie camera, also with optical stabilization, which is a first. As for the interface, it's more minimalist than ever before and absolutely down to the point. Save for the dedicated Pro mode, which gives you manual control over variables such as ISO and shutter speed, it's a really clean execution overall. So while the camera app on the HTC 10 is relatively slow to take a snap, once it does, the results are overall great. On the plus side, white balance is almost universally set correctly despite some slips, so we can expect photos that are true to life. Dynamic range, while not best in class, is pretty decent overall as well. That said, it's worth pointing out that the camera produces stills that are pretty soft and often chooses very fast shutter speeds to avoid blurring. This comes at the expense of high ISO levels, however, so noise reduction kicks in and it does a great job. But combined with the aforementioned softness of images, detail in trees and foliage can get pretty dirty. In low light, the camera delivers as well. Even without using the flash, the HTC 10 manages to soak up enough light from the scene to deliver a bright shot, if at the occasional expense of accuracy. Turning to music, and given HTC's boom sound legacy, we need to have a word. First off, the front-firing stereo boom sound speakers of Volt are gone with the HTC 10. Instead, HTC has gone for a tweeter integrated into the earpiece, along with a secondary speaker on the bottom that takes care of lower frequencies. HTC spent a lot of time talking up this configuration, and while it's not quite up there with the iPhone 6s's, it is on par with other flagships. In everyday usage, you can expect the HTC 10 to handle anywhere between a day and a half depending on how much you stress the device. If you game often, however, you feel like overnight charges are a must for a peace of mind. This impression is corroborated by our custom battery life test, which kept the HTC 10 dead after 7 hours and 10 minutes, which is pretty decent but not excellent. The HTC 10 also comes with a Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0 compliant charger. In our testing, it takes 1 hour and 40 minutes for the HTC 10 to get from 0 all the way back to full, which isn't a leading score, but nor is it a bad one. Despite bleeding money, HTC continues to refuse to play the more is necessarily better game and reminds us that it's a company that has its own style and its own way of doing things. Some may be quick to argue that this is proof of inability just as much as anything else, but I disagree. No matter how cautious I'm trying to be with my thinking, the HTC 10 strikes me as a device built to specification. HTC wanted it to be that way. What the HTC 10 isn't, it isn't a toy. It's not pretty or flashy. Instead, it's a tool, and it's built like one. A tool to get the job done, and then stay out of your way instead of wasting your time with gimmicks. This cut-through-the-nonsense approach is seriously a fresh breath of air and a departure from the cookie-cutter Android mentality of the day. And as paradoxical as it may sound, the HTC 10's lack of innovative features is the basis of its allure for us here at PhoneArena. Once again, this was Chris. Thank you guys for watching.